Hello and welcome. This is Elizabeth Clare Brewington with the Brightside Book Club channel and Speaker channel. These are two new channels that we are adding to the Brightside Global Trade channels to, to launch our speakers and our book authors. And today in our studio, we have two wonderful speakers, and we're going to have two amazing webinars. So all you have to do is really sit back and listen. I want to open up with asking you a question. How many of you know about calcium? Calcium that is in you. We know that we take supplements, but did you know that there's a lot of calcium around you? Well, today we have an environment activist, an architect and a designer who's actually written a book. She's taken the time to talk about an important topic. And I Googled this and there wasn't much information about it. So she's probably one of the first to break the glass, and talk to us about calcium. And she's got a wonderful presentation for us. And so sit back and listen. Over to you, Korynn.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, when I first started this project, I also couldn't find any information on it. So that's why I'm here and that's why I did it. So my name is Korynn Newville and I wrote Indiscernible Elements, Calcium. And in the book, calcium shows us the connection between humans, the built environment, and the earth, and how we are all connected through this one element. So like what was stated before, we do take supplements of calcium. Calcium makes up nearly 2% of our body, and it's in charge of a lot of things within our body other than bones and teeth. It's in charge of being like a signaler for our body. If you get a paper cut, it will, tell our brain, please help, clog that, so you stop bleeding. And then calcium is also within all, if not all organisms within the earth. So animals, plants, in plants, it often makes up structures of leaves or creates that outer shell. And it's within, as we know, coral. And as we've seen coral passing away over the last few years because of the climate warming, that white exoskeleton that's left is calcium. And it also makes up architectural products. And that's how I found this connection. Is I was studying for my master's of architecture, and I discovered that calcium, the same element that's within the Earth's core, the same element that's within us, is taken and modified to help build our buildings. So the drywall that's around you in your room, that in between those paper layers is a powder, and that powder is made up of calcium. It's just slightly modified. And when a fire happens, that fire heats up to a certain degree, and that powder within the drywall releases a vapor, and that vapor is what slows down our fires. And it's also prominent in concrete and many other items that we use for buildings. So in this book, calcium takes us on a journey of grieving the planet of how it is today, and helps us understand that we must change. We need to surrender ourselves to the earth in order to start changing and in order to keep surviving. And we live in a cycle, and that's what calcium shows us through this story, is that everything is a part of this cycle. We are all connected, and there is a global cycle along with your small cycles of every day. What we do here affects people across the world, and we have to understand that. And this is so important with architecture and the built environment, because construction makes up almost 40% of global commissions. And That's very high. And we're not going to stop building anytime soon, so we have to fix it. And yeah, I've prepared a video that shows us 2 of the drawings that are represented in my book, and it has a voiceover of the book, and I hope you enjoy it. Sorry. All right. That.
Indiscernible elements.
Can you hear it?
Calcium, an element. Metal within the Earth's crust, within human bodies, within organisms on land and in the sea. Found within the walls of homes, calcium will tell us a story. The element will show us a story. I want to show you what it would be. Grow together and let things be. When we are together, accumulated strength, rebirthing ourselves, we reveal beautiful complexities. We await our fate. From within the soil, up the nervous system of roots, we create barriers, facades, exoskeleton. My life will refurbish through mortal's decay. I am now above ground, in a lifeless stone, in a monster, within the walls, a corpse. I have been cremated, manipulated by mortals, trapped in walls of depression. I once was dancing among seashells, but I am an endless cycle. Living and dying, hoping to be hit by elements. I am resurrected. Water morphs me into life. I crystallize, an organic weapon. I am a decaying disease, living in a paradox. I have fought for you since birth. We've been living in sickness, putting ourselves, other monsters, in front of Mother. We can no longer surrender ourselves. We must lay down to rest. Surrender ourselves. Mother has been in a state of mourning, agony, sickness. Your skeleton of selflessness, the transformation, offers relief. You and I revive within the footings, ascend from the soil. Ceaselessly layering ourselves interchangeably. We live with mortals, their ancestors encapsulating the stone beast. Mortals can practice with living, mortals can practice with dying. Beasts can live and die, like and with organisms. Through storytelling, calcium exposed new relationships in our built environment to practice with living and dying.
I hope you enjoyed it. So that's two of the drawings that are in my book or two of many, I should say. And yeah, returning it to you. Oh, I think you're muted, or is that me? You're muted.
All right.
There you go.
Amazing. That's quite amazing. I'm really fascinated by your depth of study and the analysis that you've been drawn to and you've cultivated. And I see where you've had various applications to the context of calcium. But I mean, quite frankly, the way you indicated it, it's put an incredible capacity for development and truth and tomorrow and today, and analysis. So tell me what prompted you to study this aspect of an element, and what drew you to it, and where you're at now with it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, it all goes back to how a small element like calcium, can show us these cycles that we're in and how we're all connected. And that's really what drew me to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the sense of scale. So it's such a small element, that's within our human scale.
Apparently, it's not so small.
Yeah, right.
You've applied it. Apparently, it has
in every single building.
an incredible
Yes.
depth to it, and so I'm fascinated by your captivation and your also the sense of development that you've seen with it. So, and from what I see and understand, calcium is in everything.
Mhm.
And in everything that it's in, does it apply the same capacity for development and structure and growth and that kind of thing?
Are you saying, is it the same in every situation?
Well, typically, but does it have the same capacities? I mean, everything has a capacity, has a characteristic. I mean, like that, and so.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. No, I wouldn't say that it's the same in every form, or the amount of it is
Okay.
different, but it is the same element. But like for architectural products, we modify it to how we want it. So
Okay.
we'll take like a lump of limestone, and then we bake it for 4 days at a very high degree. And that's what breaks it down and turns it into that calcium powder, which changes the compounds of it. So it's no longer just calcium by that point because we modify it to what we need it to be.
Right, right, right. So, but in our bodies, apparently calcium is such an essential portion of who we are.
Mhm.
By our bone structures, our brain structures, the way we live, move, and breathe. And
Yeah.
that's how I can get in touch with it, I'll say. And now, in terms of buildings, I'm sure it's there and it has all kinds of capabilities, but those are things that we can't control. But
Yeah.
in our bodies and the structures of our minds and that kind of thing. Oh, so tell me, can you taste it?
Oh, that's a good
Yeah, I
question.
know, I know.
Yeah, I guess you have
Well, hold on,
chewies, calcium
yeah, well,
chewies.
no, let her finish it out. I want to hear what she says. Okay, tell me.
I
I mean,
suppose you,
there's no right or wrong. I'm not
yeah,
to the block on that. I just, I mean, in the foods that we eat, I'm sure
yeah,
many of them some have 90% calcium. And we're misled to some extent because we think that milk has calcium.
Yeah.
And
right.
that may not even be, I mean, because we've been taught when you were a child to drink your milk, it give you good bone structure,
Yeah,
or activating the calcium, I'll say,
right. I would say you probably can taste it, because calcium at its core is or on its own is a earth metal.
Okay. Oh, didn't know that. Earth metal meaning that it's one of the true building blocks of American earth. I mean, are they're in rock? Calcium, it must be in rock.
It's like one of the first found earth metals. So when it's by itself, it's this very, very, very soft metal.
Okay.
But that metal turns into so many different things, which is also what I love about calcium, is that it can represent this new life, this new beginning. So even if we take it and modify it for architectural products, that's giving it a different life. Once when our bodies decompose, it grows into grass or a tree, it's new life.
Right.
And that's what drew me the most to this, is when we're talking about the biggest umbrella of climate change and trying to survive, that there are new beginnings, and it's okay to let go of the world we have today, but because we need to change it, we need to move on, we need to fight for it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it just opens it asks a lot of questions in my own mind.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of calcium, I think in terms of people and healing, what portion of calcium can be used to utilize and activate a better healing quotient in our bodies, become, futuristic and sustained and what do you? I mean, you may not have exposed it. What are the foods that have the highest capacity for calcium in them?
I don't know. Other than the supplement.
No. Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
there are a few things that probably have, a
I'm
great
sorry.
degree of calcium, but I don't know. I'm just asking
Yeah.
questions, and
If you stop.
So naturally, all vegetables do.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And fruits, because they came from a plant.
Okay.
And when calcium is put into food, it's added. So it's
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's true.
Now tell me more about this metal. This is almost like a
Earth metal.
diamond. If
An
every
earth metal.
building has it, what is calcium worth and where is this metal found? Do you know?
Well, as a metal itself, it's not worth much. It's so soft that it can't be used for anything
Okay.
by itself. But there is it, like in our steel or aluminum, there is calcium within it, but it's not by itself. Calcium doesn't work by itself. It needs other things.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
you've definitely opened our
Yeah,
eyes to it because it's something you wouldn't notice or ask questions about.
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey.
your
What
book.
got you involved and what made you write the book and what fascinated you about calcium?
So in my architectural studies in grad school, we, had to do a thesis, and this started as my thesis, which was a lot different in school. It's definitely developed since then into the book that you see today.
So I know this, since you've gotten where you are in your cultivation and study, I mean, in the reading too must be a captive read. How do you envision the next step forward for your own study, and where you think that it's great that more men and women are aware of the importance and impact of calcium, and perhaps what might be developed as a part of it.
I had just really hope that the drawings and the words can put a picture in people's minds that we are connected, and what we decide today
Right.
have consequences, and we're on this path to that our world is going to change. And for me, it's about living with those changes and learning to design with the earth and not against.
Okay.
It's learning to have open arms towards the different solutions that are coming out, because not one thing is working yet, and that's okay. But we are in this time of experimental, and I just hope that people understand that we're, our world that we know is changing. It has changed, and that's what calcium shows us through grieving. We are grieving this past world of I'm sorry. We are grieving this past world that
happens when two thoughts merge with each other.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what happened up here.
Yeah.
But our world is changing, and we have to accept that and move on. And it's when you think about everything being, or calcium being this organic matter that some argue, and I would even argue that humans are organic and we've come from, animals. And so from everything that we've made in result is also organic.
Right.
And we just need to realize that we're going to be in survival mode.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things that I'd like to talk with you about in terms of how this could go. I mean, because we're at the point where we craft. We can craft. I mean, there's a need for better foods that could make a difference in our lives. Then, we can craft and cultivate the merger of two foods. Foods that have a higher capacity for calcium and a higher, because I mean, some foods, calcium, I understand that in order for calcium to emerge, now you can get supplements, of course, but in order to get the best result from calcium, you got to have a presence of vitamin G or vitamin G. And the two of those, once vitamin G is present in your food and evident, then calcium C or vitamin calcium. And what's the difference between vitamin C and calcium?
Vitamin C is, well, the known, I guess what I know is that calcium is an element. Vitamin
Right.
C is not.
It's a nutrient. Okay. It is a mineral of sorts, I mean,
Yeah.
and of course we need the body has over 24 amino acids, and these amino acids enable our progeny, in some ways. And so there's a very, fascinating study about that, what it means and what it could mean. And, I mean, and I don't know. I'm fascinated here. I really am. And so what do we do with that? I'm sorry, Korynn, isn't it?
No, Korynn.
Korynn. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. I'm Elton Brewington. I'm sorry I came in on the
That's okay.
introduction, but I mean, and so what could that mean? I mean, your book sale. I guess you can do some presentations with your book or more descriptions of your book, but there must be a audience of people that
Mhm.
be completely and ultimately fascinated by this simple discovery. Now, you could be a moon scientist when it comes to, I mean, you could be, a space person when it comes to calcium. A person who just, I mean, you know how important that could be?
Mhm.
The importance of that could be quite significant, and I applaud you for your willingness to study and to analyze and to review and consider. It takes a little courage while being completely, utterly, and fascinatingly misunderstood. Because I mean, your typical people that know you or are just meeting you might say or see, "Oh man, what is that all about?" But what you got to do is you got to pat yourself on the back and continue to move forward. Continue to move forward because you've been given a service of life's work. I mean, I know when people get together and they discuss and review uh, weird subject matter, and I don't mean to be disrespectful,
Oh, you're not.
then there's something in that. There's something in that, and the analysis of that subject matter could be just revolutionary. Could be revolutionary.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody else has any other
Well,
questions.
let's
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
everyone.
right.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
very welcome. Very
Really
welcome.
appreciate that.
So does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think my journey with calcium has just begun. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on our show. And please stay as long as you can. We have a beautiful segment coming up, and we're a bit early. People are sending me text messages. Janice, they're joining us a little later for your segment, but we'll begin with ending the session. We are watching. Elton, you want to say something?
No.
Go ahead.
I'm fascinated. I'm so happy to have you all with us.
Yes.
But we can end this recording and move to the next segment to talk with
Yep.
other things. I've got a great lineup of things that I'd like to share with people,
Right.
and talk to them. So yeah, that's a good idea. So with that being said, thank you for joining. I'm glad we've talked about this aspect, and I look forward to our continuing conversation.
Thank you so much.
All right.
So you're watching the kickoff of the Brightside Speaker channel, as well as the Brightside Book Club channel, a channel to give book clubs recommendations on the books that they should be buying and talking about. And I would highly recommend Calcium. It's a provocative, it's an innovative, it's something we need to know about. It's environmental. I think it's a great topic. And I think, Korynn, you probably are the pioneer in discovery of calcium. So get her book. It's available everywhere. And we once again thank you for watching Brightside Global. Coming up on our show is Janice Kephard. And we are delighted because we live in North Carolina and we have a long history with Cherokees from the Smoky Mountains. And her grandfather was a historian and someone that is very well respected, Horace Kephard. And many of you who are hikers or have kids who are Boy Scouts will know about this Kephard knife and the survival guide, and we'll get into detail with her. She's coming up next on the show. And thank you for watching Korynn's segment. And if you like what you watched and you want to know more about calcium, please subscribe to our channel. We'll make sure that all her links are available, and there will be a book review as well. So please look for it. Thank you for watching.